So struggle is a dirty word. Like reality is, when you're struggling, people don't stay. They run. They run far, far away. But if you're being successful and everything is good, people are flocking to you. Something about struggling pushes people away, even if it's not your fault. Welcome back to another episode of a Wanderer's Way podcast. I'm your host, Dustin, and today we're going to talk about the act of struggling. And what I mean by that is how a lot of us will struggle at times, and how a lot of people will just not stay. They will leave. So, as you heard in the introduction here, spoke about how struggling is such a dirty word to people. People look at it as a failure. How I look at failure is a learning lesson. You don't fail forever. You only fail for a temporary time until you learn something and do better. And a lot of bad luck just does happen to a lot of people. So a lot of people will see you struggle and then they walk away. They don't want to be any part of it. You're not important to them at that time. But as soon as you're being successful, making money, on top of the world, everyone's flocking to you. They want to be part of your life. Now, I don't think that everyone intentionally does this. I know a lot will. They're like, you're struggling? Stay away. But there's a lot of times where in our minds is I think a lot of us fear when we see someone struggle, we may also struggle with them. It's not always the case. And it's not always a decisive point that someone's struggling because of their own choices either. Bad luck just happens. Like you can't really choose for someone and say, oh, it's your fault. Your marriage broke, you're homeless, you have no money. That's your fault. You can't really point the fingers at people all the time. Things happen. And the act of struggling is part of life. Struggling isn't a dirty word. It's only temporary. It's not forever. Anyone can get back on their feet. I know I have. I used to be homeless. I struggled with my mental health so much that I made myself homeless and didn't even recognize it until it was already too late and I was homeless. Slept on cold benches, freezing my nuts off, living in homeless shelters. I still had jobs here and there, depending where I went. In New York City, I worked and was in a homeless shelter. But I was manic and jumped on a bus. Don't even remember it. And went down to North Carolina in Southport and walked 25 miles one day. Got so tired that I just fell on a cold bench on the riverfront where the cold wind is blowing onto me on Halloween. I think it was Halloween night, if I remember right. Holy crap. Can't believe I remember that. But, yeah, it was cold. And, I gave away my jacket, apparently. Saw someone cold on the side of the streets in New York City, knowing I'm leaving. My mind wasn't there at that time. I remember it now. But apparently I saw another homeless person that was cold and gave it to him. And then off I went on a bus down with only a sweatshirt as the warmest thing I had. It was brutal. A lot of times, you come to this, sleep on friends' couches, you struggle, you know, things happen. What I've learned about that time is the people that actually stayed there throughout the worst of my time to where I am now, not struggling and having a wonderful life, and they're still there. Those are the people I trust. Those are the people I trust with my life. I know if something happens, they're going to stay there for me. All those that walked away and they tried to come back, I don't allow them back in. And you shouldn't either. When someone walks away when you're at your worst, they're worthless for you. They're nobody good that you want to have in your life forever as a friend or a soulmate or anything. Let them go. Give that attraction to others. And give your life to those who are there at your worst. When you're struggling and those people stay, those are the ones you want.